the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavali. We're recording today's show before the Milan derby on Monday evening. Inter have the chance to win the Scudetto. Nima will be doing a post-match reaction on that game and celebrating Inter Scudetto if they win it, looking at who the heroes of the triumph are, what's next for Inter, can they create a dynasty, their transfer market, all that kind of stuff. So if you've tuned in to listen to Inter winning the Scudetto, then just check out Nima's post-match pod, which you can get on patreon.com/TIFP for just $2.99 a month. But on today's show, on today's free Monday show, we will review all the weekend Serie A action. Juventus snatching a fortunate late 2-2 draw at Cagliari. Max Allegri setting another negative record which dates back 30 years. Wait for that. Napoli's own horror season goes from bad to worse. They lose at Empoli. The Napoli fans are furious. They're protesting. Some are even calling for Aurelio De Laurentiis to sell the club. Elsewhere, Atalanta, Lazio and Fiorentina all win. The relegation race is starting to narrow down. A few teams are starting to pull away. The big news off the pitch is that Stefano Pioli is almost certain to be sacked by Milan now at the end of the season. Everybody is unanimous in the Italian media about that. We'll discuss this and we'll look at the possible replacements for Pioli. And there's also some really, really bad news for the Italy national team as Destiny Udogie, who's had such a fantastic season at Tottenham, is out of Euro 2024. He's undergone an operation. He's going to be out for a few months. We're also going to poke a little bit of fun at the Premier League's farming in Europe last week. And we'll also have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week and look ahead to the second legs of the semi-final of the Coppa Italia this midweek. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. It's the same price and same terms. And for all of you that do listen on Spotify, Apple, iTunes podcast, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating. Give us a follow and a like. We're also on YouTube. We've just surpassed 2,000 followers on YouTube. And give us a follow there. It really helps us to grow and do more quality content for you guys. Okay, let's get into today's show.
I'm sorry, but I can't stop laughing at you calling people on YouTube followers and subscribers. Like you should.
I mean, what do you expect, Nima, by now? Come on.
Sorry. I didn't. I was like, should I say anything? Should I not say anything?
I did. Sorry. I'll be honest. I did actually think that as I said it. I was as I was saying it. I was thinking it's not a follower, is it, on YouTube? What is it?
It's a subscriber.
Yeah,
it's a subscriber.
It's a subscriber. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But I mean, look, listen. You know me. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to these things. You know who else is also a dinosaur?
Oh, here we go.
Who else is a dinosaur? Max Allegri, of course. And it's the first half of Juventus's 2-2 draw against Cagliari, I think, was the worst first half of Allegri's second spell. Do you agree with that, Nima?
It was not the worst, but it was up there. I can't choose. There's been quite a few stinkers through the past few years. But so I can't choose. There's so many to choose from. But it was dreadful. It was really bad. And I think for me, it just hammered home the point that we've been making, both of us, although for different reasons, that it is time to part. Like, he needs to leave. That's not a good working environment for anyone. It's not a good working environment for him. It's not a good working environment for the new Juventus directorship and leadership. It's not a good for the players. I think they need to start over. Like, it's just For
It
me,
was
it's
so
obvious.
bad. The first half was so bad. I mean, in every way, going forward, defending. I mean, created nothing. An XG of 0.29. Uh, just couldn't put two passes together. No patterns of play. Couldn't get up the pitch, and then defensively, embarrassing. I mean, Cagliari had an XG of
Yeah,
2.06. Okay, I know they
I
had penalties, which obviously accounts for a lot of that, but
yeah.
they
Well, every penalty is like 0.75, zero point 0.8, isn't it? Like on
yeah,
XG. Yeah,
exactly,
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
So,
still horrible.
mm.
And the defending was so bad. I mean, Gatti in these last two games has looked like a bricklayer in these last two games. I mean, he's been so, but all of them, honestly, like this game, I can't save anybody in this game from Juventus. Every single player was horrible. Every single one. Every player in the defence, every player in the midfield. Locatelli, just awful. Um, Alcaraz taken off at half time, awful. In attack, Chiesa, Vlahovic, okay, he put effort in, but terrible. Every single player. Weah. I mean, gosh. I mean, is he really George Weah's son? I mean, is who didn't see that coming? I mean, so bad. Juventus at the end are lucky to get a draw in this game. I mean, they've created nothing at all in this game. They the second half they equalised with a free kick, so it wasn't created, and that was only because the Cagliari player, can't remember which one it was, ducked on the free kick, which allowed it to go in. And then the second goal is just a lucky own goal, just a cross again. Exactly what I was saying last week. Juventus, they can only score off and create chances off set pieces and crosses, and that's how they got their goals. A free kick goal. It wasn't even a free kick. The goal as well wasn't even a free kick, and a bizarre own goal. So yeah, just continues Juventus's form in the last 2 months since that Empoli game. Played 12, won 2, drawn 6, lost 4, which is relegation form. This is now the worst second half of a season for Juventus in the 3 points for a win era. That's 30 years. So in 30 years, it's the worst second half of a season that Juventus have had, which is yet another negative record for Allegri. I have a new one every single week. That is just historically bad, and there's no excuses at all. It's awful, and when every single player is playing terribly, that's on the coach. So yeah, it's bad. Champions League qualification, you know, is a draw takes them a little bit of a step closer, I guess. But then again, we're recording this before Roma Bologna, and Atalanta got a win, so they still need to be a little bit careful. There's still 5 games to go. If Atalanta win their game in hand, they go, I think, 7 points behind. So 7 points behind, 5 games left, should be okay. But Juventus still have to be a little bit careful because they have some really tough games coming up. They've got to play Milan. They've got to play Roma away, Bologna away. These are tough games that you're not going to back Juventus to win. So they do have to be a little bit careful, Juventus.
No, they do. Because I'm looking at I still think they'll finish third, and I think with this fifth spot, I just really I struggle to see Juve finishing out of the top five. I do think, however, that they need to snap out of whatever depression they've got going there. Because look at it. If Atalanta,
Clinical depression.
yeah, well, if Atalanta win their game in hand, they're on 57 points. That's 7 points with 5 games to play. That should be enough. But you look at Juve's games coming up. They got Lazio in the Coppa Italia return leg semi-final, and they got Milan at home, Roma away. Those are tough games. I think it's going to be a tough ask to see Juve win all of those to get, or win 6 points there. Maybe 2, maybe 4. But then they have Salernitana at home. They have to win that. And then Bologna away on the penultimate match day of the season. And that's, that's going to be very decisive, I think, for whether they finish third or not. I still think they'll win the Coppa Italia. I still think they'll finish third. I think it will be, I look at they haven't lost too many games. They've drawn a lot of games, Juve, and they've won only 18. I think the issue here, it feels like we have kind of laid. I mean, if we leave all the other stuff behind, just look at the results. Third Coppa Italia trophy, 26 goals conceded, 5 losses, 10 draws, however many they end up being. It does feel like Juve have turned a corner in terms of results wise, and that there is something to build on from here on. I just don't think that Juve can continue with Allegri for anyone's sake, because they won't be given any peace. The atmosphere, the environment is so toxic after these 3 years that I think the best thing that can happen for all parties is just to part ways. And I think that's going to happen anyway. I think it's almost inevitable. I know Giuntoli said we were programming the future, we're planning the future with whatever he said. I don't buy it. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. I just don't see Allegri as a Giuntoli coach. And
Well, he can't. He can't. Listen, I agree with you. I can't agree with you on the results. I mean, they're gonna get. They're on at the way they're going. It's going to be the worst of the 3 seasons for Allegri in terms of results, and it's obviously the worst second half of the season in 30 years. So I can't agree with you on the results, but I mean, obviously, I agree with you on Allegri.
Well, if you look at the squad, Carlo, in the last 30 years, this is the worst squad they've had in those 30 years. So naturally, they're going to have the worst results in the league in the last 30 years.
I disagree with that. I think, listen, we've had this discussion, done this discussion to death. The quality of the squad and the players also comes down to the manager and how he improves those players, or does he get the best out of those players, which Allegri hasn't. You've got a midfield of a starting France international, a starting Italy international, Rabiot and Locatelli, just to give you an example. But if you can't get the best out of them, they play like a San Marino international and a Guadeloupe international. Then But anyway, listen, we've done that discussion to death. I do agree with you though that Giuntoli, what can he say? He's not going to come out and say Allegri's leaving at the end of the season.
Can't say that. Of course, he can't say that.
Say that. So I never look into public
not when they've
statements.
still got a trophy to play for. I mean, it would be suicide if he did that. It would be absolutely insane if he.
I never look into public statements when they're denying something. I only look into public statements when they're confirming something.
I look at public statements when the season is over, in the sense that when there's nothing left to play for, when there's then I give it more credence. But other than that, I'm with you. I don't.
Yeah. As for Cagliari, I mean, they'll have regrets here. I mean, they've battered Juventus in the first half, and they're really unlucky with the 2 goals conceded. I mean, they got lucky with. I mean, they should have had a penalty conceded for the elbow by Mina. But in terms of overall game, I mean, they were the better team. They should have won the game. And if they'd have won this game, they would have been really close to pulling away completely from the relegation zone. And now they're still in a decent position. They're 4 points ahead of the drop zone, but it's 4 points, and it only takes one result, and then they're right back in there again. So it's a shame. I think they would have basically been safe if they've won this game. They concede with 2 minutes to go. That's a little bit gutting. But the positive side of things is they're in fantastic form. They've lost only one game in 9 games, so they've hit form at the right time, and they've got such a great record against big teams recently. I mean, their last 3 games, they played Atalanta, Inter, and Juventus. If you'd have said before those 3 games started that Cagliari were going to be unbeaten in all 3 games, and they're going to take 5 points from those 3 games, I mean, no one could have. You would have called them mad. I think even Ranieri could have dreamed. So, I mean, if they take a look at it, the bigger picture, it's been a fantastic spell for Cagliari.
It is, and I'm looking at their their last few games, and I mean, I'm seeing 2-2 against Juve at home, 2-2 against Inter away, a win against Atalanta. Those are the 3 last games. That's 5 points out of against top teams. That's so impressive. Now they've got Genoa, and then they got Lecce before Milan. I think they're going to be safe before going to the Sassuolo game, or before going to Milan. I think probably because Lecce are just above them, 3 points ahead. I think they're going to draw that game, so they're on 33, Lecce on 36, and then and then they're going to play against Genoa, who have
The little biscotto in that game.
Yeah, classic Italian biscotto April-May, where nobody tries to hurt one another. And then Genoa, who have nothing to play for, they're in no man's land. They're probably going to win that game too to secure their position, or draw that too. That's 34 points. I don't see them going down with 34 points. Not when I look at Frosinone and Sassuolo. I just don't see how those teams overtake Cagliari or Lecce. So as far as I'm concerned,
they should be okay. Let's move on to Monza versus Atalanta. Atalanta have had a wonderful past week. They win this game 2-1 in the end, coming off the back of knocking out Liverpool of the Europa League. They made mass changes. They started only 3 players from the Liverpool game, but they still deservedly won and comfortably won, despite Monza getting a goal back by Maldini at the end. And what is very noticeable from this game is just how deep this Atalanta squad is. Like, they have 2 options, decent options in every position, basically, on the field. And if you look at the lineup that they put out against Monza, you wouldn't pick any players out and say, "Oh, that's really a weak player," And that, I mean, considering they were virtually playing a backup 11, I think that is really testament to just, again, what we always say about Atalanta, just pound for pound, just what an incredibly run club they are. Maybe the best run club, pound for pound, in Europe. And that's fantastic. And I think in this game, I thought De Ketelaere, his goal kind of epitomized the improvement that he's shown in the second half of the season with Atalanta, that he scored with a header off a corner in which he physically held off Gagliardini. De Ketelaere, in his first season at Milan, and even the first half of the season, he was somebody that was just
look at
very
these
weak.
stats.
Yeah, very
just
weak.
Look at these stats. It's just crazy. I mean, 39 games, 11 goals, 8 assists at Atalanta this season. De Ketelaere.
And most of that's come in the second half of the season.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still incredibly impressive, and I think I really hope, for Atalanta's sake and his sake, that he stays there. I really hope that they buy him. It's good for Milan too. It's good for everyone, because his confidence is back. He looks like, I mean, I've always believed in him. I always thought there's a player there, but he's now looking like someone who's kind of being rehabilitated, and and someone who's only now beginning to express. I still think there's so much he can improve, but he looks so healthy. He looks, his confidence, his like, from a psychological point of view, he looks happy. I remember I watched 2 games where he was, kind of on the pitch last season, and the second game, like, just during warm up, he looked like he wanted to hide.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's like physically and mentally, but I just think that the goal kind of epitomized that change around, because there's no way. Like, can you imagine? Remember the amount of times he was so weak and he used to get pushed off the ball, brushed off the ball. He wouldn't apply himself with his, even just with the way that he positioned himself with his body, and shown the aggression and belief as well in duels, and here he is scoring a header off a corner. I mean, it's not nothing special about the goal, but it just kind of epitomized the improvements that De Ketelaere has shown. So that was really, really nice to see, and he's been in really good form. And Bilal Toure scoring a nice goal as well. I think that's a positive for Atalanta, because he's had he came in as their big, along with Scamacca, as their big summer signing last summer, and then he immediately got a really serious injury. He's missed most of the season. He's come back. He hasn't been obviously fully fit, and they've got lots of options up front. He hasn't played much, and he plays here and he scores. So it's been a great week. It's been a great week for Atalanta. They're now in a decent position to challenge for that top 5 Champions League place through the league. They're 5 behind Bologna, having played the same number of games. They're 1 behind Roma, having played 1 game more. But remember, we're recording this before Bologna and Roma play on Monday evening. So they're going to gain on at least one of those 2 teams, or they're going to, they're going to be in a much better position once that game's played, basically. If it's a draw, then fantastic. They have the chance with their game in hand to close, or if one team wins, then they can close on the team that loses. So they put themselves in a good position now, and they've got Empoli home, Salernitana away next. So yeah, happy times for Atalanta.
Yeah, absolutely. And but having said that, I know we're going to talk about this, or I want to talk about this now, because it is absolutely not unlikely, or it's kind of unlikely, but it's absolutely possible and probable that Serie A could have 10 teams in Europe next season. Now, how do I get that to 10? Well, the top 5 will go to the Champions League. If Atalanta finish outside of the top 5 and win the Europa League, they too go to the Champions League. That's 6 teams in the Champions League.
Or if Roma do that.
Well, yeah, but based
one
on
or the other. If one of Roma or
yeah.
Atalanta wins
Yeah,
the
but I don't want to
Europa
confuse it too much, because Roma are clear favourites to finish in the top 5. So let's say top 5 ends as it does, they go to the Champions League. Atalanta finish 6, win the Europa League, they go to the Champions League. That's 6 spots in the Champions League. Now already, Italy are guaranteed 2 teams in the Europa League and 1 team in the Conference League. That's 9. However, if Fiorentina finish 10th and win the Conference League, they too go to the Europa League. Half the Serie A could play in Europe next season. I need this to happen. I need this more than fish need water. Okay?
Fiorentina have to finish 10th, though, don't they?
Yeah. I think so. 10th or 9th, something like that. So depending, because if Juve win the Coppa Italia and Fiorentina win the Conference League, then it goes to 6, 7, 8, and the team that finished 9th, something like, it's a bit complicated, but basically there is a really good chance that we could have 10, half the Serie A could play in Europe next season.
That's mad.
In a position and a situation where the Serie A has probably, in terms of overall quality, never been, it's not exactly at its highest compared to money and all that stuff. The Premier League should be doing this. These are the numbers the Premier League should be delivering and producing, given the ridiculous disparity financially and spending power.
Well, we were going to talk about this afterwards, but let's just spend a minute now on the Premier League's farming in Europe last week. What did you make of their harvest last week?
I think Mats Hummels is one of my favorite people on earth. Nice harvesting fellow farmers, he tweeted out after they went through. It was absolutely hilarious. Listen, I think they should be ashamed of themselves. And I think Dougie Critchley said it best. He's like, this the Premier League. I'm paraphrasing what he says, but he said pretty much that, look, the only the Premier League has more money than anyone else. I got it here. 8 Premier League sides entered into European competition this season, and just one, reached the semi-finals. Aston Villa in the Conference League via a penalty shootout. Given the discrepancy in spending over the last few years, this is nothing short of a humiliation for the league. I've never been a fan of making sweeping statements on the quality of an entire league off knockout games. But I do hope this puts an end to the condescending, patronizing, and dismissive attitude towards other European leagues in this country.
Well said.
Got nothing to add.
Well
Got
said.
nothing to add.
Well said.
Got nothing to add to that.
Yeah. Well, we've seen it. We've seen it all, and we will carry on seeing it even after. We have seen it even after all these teams went out last week. They were still seeing it. I mean, the excuses that we've heard. I mean, Arsenal went out, and the excuse was that they're tired because of all the games that they play in the Premier League, the intensity of the Premier League. The other leagues, the other teams in the other leagues have play at a much lower intensity, so they're able to prepare for these European games with more, they're fitter and stronger for these games. Liverpool go out, they lose to Atalanta. Can I just remind everyone that Liverpool's wage bill is 159 million per year, Atalanta's is 45 million a year. Atalanta's wage bill is lower than every club in the Premier League except for Luton and Sheffield United. It's the same as Burnley's. So every single team in the Premier League except for Luton and Burnley. I mean, that's absolutely insane. And then when they go out, what's the excuse? And they deservedly go out. I mean, Atalanta absolutely outplayed them at Anfield. And the excuse they use is, again, that Liverpool are tired, they've got injuries, and that they're too complacent. They took the first leg too easily. They thought they could just turn up and win. Manchester City go out, they lose to Real Madrid. What excuse do they give? They say that they completely dominated the game. Real Madrid just played Catenaccio. We get these absolutely ridiculous. Jamie Carragher saying that the best team. Jamie Carragher saying the best team doesn't always win. And it's funny though, isn't it? How when the English teams go out in Europe, they say that the best team doesn't always win. When the English teams win in Europe, they never say that, do they? Have you noticed that? When Liverpool, the worst Liverpool team that I've seen in the last 30 years, win the Champions League, coming back from 3-0 down against that great Milan team, and they completely fluke a comeback with a penalty that was never a penalty, with a miracle save in extra time, with Jerzy Dudek standing on his penalty spot for every penalty. It wasn't the best team. The best team doesn't always win. Then wasn't it? It was miraculous comeback from Liverpool. Oh, amazing!
Istanbul miracle.
And then Newcastle. We were told they were going to win the group of death. We had Martin Samuel calling Milan the Chelsea reserves. We had your best friend Tariq Panja saying that Brentford were a tougher team for Milan than Newcastle. We had Owen Hargreaves tipping Newcastle to win the group. They come bottom of the group. What's their excuse? Oh, if it wasn't for a penalty that penalty that shouldn't have been given, Newcastle would have gone through, and now they'd be in the semi-finals. They were saying this the other day. They were saying if it wasn't for that penalty, Newcastle would be in the semi-finals now. And then you have Brighton. Remember, actually, it was, to be fair, it wasn't Dougie that said that, but the people on his show, the Sky podcasters. Oh, Brighton could win the Serie A, and then afterwards, oh, we're only joking. You could go on and on and on. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see this. It's absolutely beautiful because the arrogance, the ignorance, the premfacery, and the money that they have, that's selling out their league to states, to criminals. And then they can't even win with all those advantages that they have. It's nice to see. Anything to add?
No, I'm good. Are you good?
Sorry, I went off of one there.
You reckon? But listen, it's just I just find it fascinating, and also because if we have 10 teams in the Europe next season, that would mean that it would be Fiorentina, Lazio, and Napoli in the Europa League, which I think is good, and it would mean that Torino would be in the Conference League, which I would love, and Atalanta, Roma, Milan, Inter, Juve in the Champions League. Now, and Bologna, sorry, and if we discard Bologna, all those other teams they have European pedigree and they have European experience, in the sense that they're used to playing there. So, but we would
need Fiorentina to win the
Conference League, without a doubt. They have to win the Conference.
I'm not. We'll come to that. I'm not convinced they play well enough to win. But anyway, let's move on to Napoli. Let's move on to Napoli. They lose 1-0 to Empoli. Another awful performance, especially in the first half. They were lucky to not be two goals behind at half time. Cambiaghi missed an absolute sitter to make it 2-0. They were a little bit better in the second half. Anguissa passed we should have shot. A few nice moments from Kvaratskhelia, but ultimately created very, very little in this match. 0.51 XG in this game. It was just another terrible performance from Napoli, just as we've seen all season. And the Napoli fans are not happy. They left the banner in the stadium for the first 15 minutes, which they weren't present at, saying only the fans always win, win. They missed the Empoli goal that came from Alberto Celli, his first goal in 3 years. um, and then when they did enter the stadium, they were insulting the players, insulting De Laurentiis, and some of the ultras were chanting at one stage for De Laurentiis to sell Napoli. They were chanting.
Mm.
So it does
And
show, really. I mean, it's incredible.
well, they're not blind, are they? I mean, they have, at the end of the day, the De Laurentiis part, I mean, they're not blind. They've seen him do fantastic things and build Napoli systematically up. And they've seen
Is that
him win.
extreme, though, to call for him to sell? I mean, is this
I
something
don't
that's...
think, because I don't think he can take it higher. I'm sorry, I just don't see him. I don't think he can take Napoli higher than he's done. I don't think he can stabilize Napoli as a Scudetto title challenger every year. He's done it twice, 3 times at most. During his tenure, and one of them he succeeded. The Sarri thing, I can't. I mean, that is just Juve were better, and everything that happened that season. Because whenever you finish on 90+ points and you don't win the league, I think it's time to just tip your hat to the opponent and say you were better. But normally they would have had 2. But I just don't think that he can, given his personality and who he is, what needs to be done in Naples. Building of a new stadium, working with the local councillors, working with cooperating with politicians and bureaucrats. I don't think he's growing the brand. I think he's fantastic at some of the things he does, but I don't think he's very modern in his communication and in the way that he markets Napoli. There are instances where he does fantastic stuff, and the Napoli fan base is huge and very loyal, so they will always back that stuff up.
It's possible.
So
Is it possible that he's
I just
just...
think it's time to move
Is it
on. I
possible
really
that
do
he's
think so.
just... Is it possible that he hit his peak, the culmination of all the great work he did last year, and now he's going to turn 75 next year? Is it a case of maybe that was his peak, and now he's getting a bit old, and that's why he's making mistakes as well?
I think,
Or is it
look,
just a case of he got drunk on his power, and he was too cocky and arrogant, and then made some massive mistakes as a
I think
result
it's
of
a
that?
combination of all of the above. I also think that you have to remember he's been there for a long time. It's almost 20, isn't it 20 years now soon?
Mm. But at the same
And
time, though, Nima, is it a case of after what he did last year that we should give him, another
I
chance? He deserves another
look,
chance.
I think he does deserve the benefit of the doubt, no doubt, based on what he's done. I just think it's when you've been someplace for almost 2 decades or around 2 decades and you've done a historic job, at some point it's always important to know when it's time to exit. I think it's important. Otherwise, if you overstay your welcome a little bit, I mean, if you speak to some of the Milan fans, I mean, some of my friends who are Milanisti, when they talk about Berlusconi, they are more. I notice that they are more annoyed with the last 5-6 years than they are with the preceding years because of how he overstayed his welcome, the circus that it became when he wanted to sell the club, and everything that happened that came along with that. That because he overstayed his welcome by 6, 7, 8 years, the way some see it. I'm not saying all Milan fans, so calm down. I'm saying some of the Milan fans I know, kind of when you talk to them, when they look back, they view it like that. And I'm thinking, that's avoidable. You can avoid that. It's best to leave before they demand that you get kicked out, you
Mm.
know? And I think with De Laurentiis, his legacy is truly remarkable. What he has done with Napoli, because again, look at how he did it. Qualifying for Europe every single year, fielding since returning to the Serie A, competitive, perfecting the player trading thing, always improving, winning every trophy you can win in Italy. Setting a new record for the Champions League of how far they got. Those are all that's going to remain in history forever. So, in my opinion, after 20 odd years, when you've done all of these things, and the next step is to build a new stadium. Napoli need a new stadium. Napoli need to come into the 21st century, like all the Serie A teams need to come into the 21st century, right? And I just think that maybe it's time at that point to hand off to someone else. That's the only thing. It's not a criticism of him. I just think life is cycles, and they all come to an end. Father Time undefeated.
Yes, one of your famous
Yes, I
sayings.
did. I needed to end on a nice little Nima bingo note there, didn't I?
Yes.
Um,
Let's go through the other results from this weekend. So Genoa 0, Lazio 1. Luis Alberto, after telling everybody that he's going to leave, he
Jeez.
then scores a big goal for them to win the game, which I found quite amusing. Verona 1, Udinese 0, late goal. Udinese in real trouble. It looks like when we're recording this, Choffy hasn't been sacked yet, but it looks like he's going to be sacked,
Yeah.
and maybe
Got
Fabio.
Fabio Cannavaro replacing him.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Mm.
That is.
Look, I'm not going to hide that we don't want Udinese to go down, given that we have a good relationship with them. So I'm not going to hide
No,
from that
I hope he
fact.
keeps them up and gets the job permanently, and we can have him on the pod.
Yeah, that's exactly what I
We
was
can have him on
thinking.
the
But
pod.
no, but seriously, it's like I just hope that they stay up. I don't think they deserve to go down. I think Frosinone and Sassuolo deserve to go down with Salernitana. I just don't think Udinese do, and I hope they snap. I hope they resolve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
But before we go, on the relegation thing, Hellas Verona. I mean, it's just after everything they've gone through with the club being essentially confiscated from the owner, and everything that happened in January, where there basically was like a fire sale,
Yeah.
and for them to continue to to win and avoid what look. I mean, they're still there. They still could be. Thrown out. And if I'm not mistaken, Coppola is a youth team player coming on and scoring the winner. I mean, it's just mad the way that they managed to do that. Another great escape, and if they manage to pull it off, I'm saying, what do we? It's like that him and Davide Nicola. Like those are Marco Baroni and Davide Nicola. We're talking accomplished like coach of the season
Yeah,
thing here because
Baroni, it's just miraculous what they went through. They virtually sold pretty much the entire first
yeah,
team in January,
just look at
and they were
this
signing like players that if you ever play Championship Manager, they're like Championship Manager
made up players.
regens.
Yeah,
Like when
yeah.
when it gets to a certain
Listen
point,
to this
gets to
name,
a certain point in history
yeah,
where like all the players that start the game have all like got old and
bin,
retired. So they have to the game has to make up new players' names,
yeah,
regens.
like this name, look, just listen to the goalkeepers, Mattia Chiesa. If that's not a regen name from Football Manager season 15, I don't know what is.
No, a lot of these names are definite regions. I don't believe Charlie's. Look at the guy number 37 from Brazil. His name's Charlie's. He's got the same first. He's got the same first name and surname. That happens on Championship Manager
I know.
because sometimes because it's like a lottery how they choose the names. That
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
choose any first name and any
The
surname, and
computer,
then
yeah,
sometimes they pick the same first name as the same surname. And
yeah.
I
Tijani Noslin,
Tijani,
like
and he's really good.
Joselito
But Tijani
Gomez.
Noslin's really, really good.
No, I know, but
He's
what I'm
really good,
saying
but
is
he
like
looks like
the
and the
names, like
Ghanaian player Philippe Ankara. I'm sorry, and look at the Polish guy Karol
Karol Świderski.
Świderski. I
Yeah,
mean, that's a definite regen. Alfadjo Cisse. I mean,
really, that's
these guys are regions. I'm sorry, and this other Netherlands guy, Elais Tavzan. I mean, and it's a definite region. I can't. Somebody can't convince me that these are
yeah.
these are
It's a
real.
simulation.
These are real
It's a
players.
We live in a
We live
simulation.
in a simulation. But I remember
Yeah.
on one Championship Manager game, there was a regen player who was called Miroslav Maldini. I'll never, I'll never forget.
Yes,
I'll never forget
yes,
that guy.
yes, yes. Miroslav Maldini. That is it. That is it. Until Verona field Miroslav Maldini, when they do that, we know that
Yeah.
that we live in a simulation.
I mean, this Charlie's. I mean, that is.
No, it's unbelievable what they are. They
Yeah.
got 31 points. It's truly remarkable, and Empoli on 31 as well. I think that. I'm close to counting them all out. This is going to be between Frosinone, Sassuolo, and Udinese for two teams to be
Well,
relegated.
let me just read through the other results. So Sassuolo lose 3-0 at home to Lecce. So Lecce, I think we can now safely say that they are safe.
Yeah, 35.
They're on 35.
God bless them.
They are 7 points ahead of
Yeah.
Frosinone. So I think we can call them safe.
Yeah.
They were excellent in this game. So
And that
Sassuolo,
their fan base as well. Like, did you see how how many Lecce fans there were at the Mapei? It's just, I'm in love. I'm in love with that fan base. I'm in love with that club, man. Like, it is such it's such a charming, and Luca Gotti, that what he's done since taking over, it's just, no, man, it's nothing but love for Lecce, nothing but love for Lecce, and it's like, I'm actually planning. I want to go there next season. I want to go there next season and watch a game there, and have some of the local delicacies, which include horse meat, because that's what they eat in Lecce. It's a local delicacy that they eat horses there.
love it.
Yeah, and fantastic wine as well. Sorry.
Torino 0, Frosinone 0. So Torino with a yet another 0-0. It's their eighth 0-0 of the season.
I love Juric.
Oh,
I think they've got like the second. I think it's second or third for most clean sheets, aren't they?
it's possible, yeah. It's possible. I mean, they've scored 31 goals in 33 games, which is I believe, I think there's only one, two,
Yeah,
three.
17 clean sheets. Inter 19. That's unbelievably good.
Mm.
Torino.
But they've also got the fourth lowest goal average a game this season. Udinese, they're the fifth lowest scorers in Serie A this season. Although Udinese still have that the rest of that game that they could go above them. So they're fourth or fifth lowest scorers. Oh my gosh! But yeah, Frosinone are right in trouble now. And the other game was Salernitana 0, Fiorentina 2. Salernitana they're still not officially down, but we know they're going down. I think that could be confirmed this weekend. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it could be confirmed this weekend that they go down. So good win for Fiorentina, who also, like Atalanta, played their entire reserve 11, and they didn't score till the 10 minutes from time. Kwame with a great header, and that's their first win in 6 in Serie A. So that puts them back in the European race as well. And if they win their game in hand, they actually go above Napoli, and only above Napoli into 8th, and only 2 points behind Lazio in 7th. So they that puts them back in it, and they've got a good fixture list to end the season. So yeah. 5 games to go then in Serie A, not including the games in hand, and the Roma, Bologna, and Milan, Inter. Just a reminder that Nima will do a post-match reaction on the Milan derby, in which Inter could clinch the Scudetto.
Yeah, and I'm going to do that regardless of the outcome of that, because it's a big game, and we need to have some coverage on that. So regardless of what happens, I'm doing a post-match reaction on that.
Excellent. Right, let's move away from the football on the pitch. 2 important issues. First of all, Stefano Pioli. It's now pretty much unanimously reported in Italy among all the top journalists and media that Stefano Pioli will be sacked by Milan at the end of the season. This has been a big talking point really all season. For the first half of the season at least, it was pretty much accepted that this would be Pioli's last season. Everybody was pretty much in agreement that it was the right decision. But then Milan had started 2024 really, really well. They went on a fantastic 7-game winning run. They got into the quarterfinals of the Europa League. They moved above Juventus into second in the Serie A. They were the informed team in Serie A. And suddenly there was, it started to be suggested that Pioli could actually now stay at Milan, and there was a kind of a split in the debate. There were those that were still, no, Pioli needs to go, and there were those that were like, no, he's shown here that he is the best man to take it forward. And we had a debate on this a couple of weeks ago before the Roma first leg, and we basically, I think both of us said, look, we need to see substance, and the Roma game is going to be key for that. This 7-game winning run and this good 2020 game, good start to 2024 is meaningless if Milan then go out to Roma in the Europa League, and that is exactly what happened. And they went out really with a whimper. If we're honest, they lost the first leg at home, and they lost away as well, despite playing against 10 men for over half the game. And so now I think, we basically, I think both of us agree that it is the right decision for him to go now at the end of the season, Nima.
I couldn't agree more. I think, as I've said many times, with the risk of being repetitive, I think history will be very kind on Stefano Pioli for what he did at Milan. I think he will be remembered as a Milan hero for bringing Milan back into il calcio che conta, back into the football that matters, where Milan need to be in the Champions League. He won a Scudetto on 86 points, which was a remarkable feat. When they didn't expect to even be challenging for a Scudetto, much less win one. Back into the Champions League, back into playing European football, developing young players, modernizing how Milan play. But after 4.5 years, almost 5 years, which is a long time in football, that relationship has run its course. And I think that Milan, he will hand over, having set the framework and set something there that now is up to someone else to take the next step. And what is the next step? Well, that is to actually start winning titles again, competing in the Serie A more often, more consistently, whilst also year after year after year getting through from the Champions League, the group stage of the Champions League to the latter stages, and perhaps even winning it once. Who knows? If the cards fall the right way, are dealt the right way, that's what Milan want to do, and that's what Milan should be able to do. And I think that it's time to say thank you for this. Thank you for this time, Stefano, but it's time to pass on. And also because, look, I think he has completely reestablished himself, and I'm looking at him. He will have a good career from after Milan, regardless of how annoyed some people are with Pioli. He's going to have a good job next. I personally think, I don't understand what De Laurentiis is doing. He has, we were speaking earlier about, should De Laurentiis be given a second chance? Well, I want to reserve my judgment based on who he picks next. If he goes after Vinny Italian, then no. But if he goes after Stefano Pioli, who I think is the perfect man to take over this Napoli project and do something, given the players they have there and given the style of football they want to play, to me, Pioli is tailor-made for that job. And he's also such a calm character. He's a gentleman. Just look at how he's handled the pressure of being questioned at Milan from the very first day he was appointed. I mean, I remember the day he was appointed in the mid-season after Gianpaolo was sacked. Pioli out was trending, hashtag. Literally on the day he was appointed. So you can't tell me that man can't work in difficult conditions. He has worked and he has succeeded in difficult conditions. And if you can do it at Milan and you can do it, then I think you can also handle it at a Napoli who's trying to, rebuild and reestablish themselves. So for me, he must be treated with respect. And I think he will have a good career. But the question then is who takes over after him?
Yeah. Well, the feeling is Di Marzio has said this and some others have said this, is that Milan are adamant it's going to be a foreign coach. They're refusing to even consider any Italian coach at all. So before we come to the name, just on that concept, I find that very strange. And I find that actually quite discriminatory, if that's true. That they just decided we are going to go for a foreign coach. We're not even going to consider an Italian coach. I don't care who it is. We're just not going for an Italian coach. If that's the case, I think that's actually really quite wrong, actually. That they should just, for starters, you should never choose a coach based on his nationality at all. That's
I
number
don't
one.
buy that.
That's number one. But number two, there are some bloody amazing Italian coaches out there, and a lot that are actually going to be available this summer. So, not saying that they should appoint an Italian manager, they certainly should be,
Pick the best
considered
person
and
for
be
the
on the
job.
shortlist. And what we've seen so far is we've seen a long shortlist of possibilities for the Milan job. There is not a single Italian on that list, and there's a lot of Italians that are better than at least half of these names that are on this list as being possible replacements. So that I find very, very strange that Milan are just decide, we are going to go for a foreign coach. We're not even going to consider an Italian name. I think that's quite discriminatory. If that
Well,
is true.
I think it's you want the best person for the job there. It's an important appointment because this is Jerry's first appointment. This is Redbird's first appointment. They have to get it right. They can't mess this up. Or first coaching appointment, that is. So they have to get this right. And I think deciding beforehand who can even apply for the job based on passport is silly.
Mm.
And I don't believe it either. I just don't believe that's how. I just don't see that a US hedge fund works like that.
Unless they're thinking, we're trying to be a
I think the
global.
style.
Unless they're
I think
thinking
what they're
global,
looking
unless they're
for.
thinking globally, we want a foreign name because we want it to be more attractive
Yeah,
globally,
but I mean that would be
they've
Jurgen
got
Klopp.
or they've got some kind of idea that the Italian mentality is more, I don't know, outdated when it comes to tactical
That's what I
management,
was going to get
which
to.
is not true, which is just
I think
simply
there's
not
been
true, which is
I
just
think I think there's been a lost in translation here thing between in whatever source they have when they reported this. I don't think Milan are looking at just foreigners based on being foreign. I think what they're looking for is someone who plays continental football. That's what I think they're looking for. Now, whether or not that coach is Italian or wherever, that's a separate debate. I don't think Milan are. I just don't. I can't imagine that being true. I just
yeah.
can't do
It
that.
also doesn't
I
make
think
any
there's been
sense
a
if that's
lost
true.
in translation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
also,
I
you
think
might
it's
be
lost in
right. You might be
translation.
right. It just doesn't make any sense if they want a continental sub, because there's lots of Italian coaches that play that
Exactly.
sub of play. I mean, Italiano, for example, De Zerbi. They play the most. They don't play Italian football at all. Old
No,
school Italian football at all. They're the complete opposite of that. So,
Thiago Motta doesn't play old school Italian football
well,
either.
yeah, oh yeah.
Neither does
I
Luciano.
forget that he's Italian.
Yeah, and neither does Luciano Spalletti. I
Yeah,
mean, because I wouldn't rule out Spalletti in a few years going to Milan. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I didn't see that. But the thing is, I view it like this. I think Antonio Conte needs a job, and Antonio Conte wants a job. And Italian football, the politics of it, it means Antonio Conte is going to get a job. And the question is, where does he want to go? Well, depending on which reports you read, some say, he wants Milan. He wants to be the first coach to
Mm.
win the Scudetto with
Well, yeah,
Inter
I agree. He should
Milan.
be in the reckoning. But I'll read out the list of what is supposedly the shortlist from what we've seen so far. I don't have any inside information myself. This has just come from the some of the top journalists, Di Marzio, Schiera, and some of the Sky Italia, and some of the others. That Julian Lopetegui seems to be the favourite of the board
Yeah,
right now,
yeah,
but there
yeah.
is big opposition from fans already against this appointment, like there was with Pioli. Then we've got Ruben Amorim, but as it stands, he's the favourite for the Liverpool job
Yeah.
to succeed Jurgen Klopp, who's leaving, of course. Then we've got Xavi, who will leave Barcelona at the end of the season, who is the favourite of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Like, this is who Zlatan wants to appoint at Milan. Then we have other names in the shortlist are Unai Emery of Aston Villa, who
Mm,
who we spoke about this off
respect.
air before. I think I think that will be a very difficult deal to do, because I think
Well,
he's doing a fantastic job at Aston Villa, and they're probably going to be in
and
the
he could
Champions
play in
League.
the Champions League,
Yeah,
exactly, with a Premier League side.
yeah.
I just don't see
And
why
he's
he would
building
leave.
something really good there as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we have Sergio Conceição at Porto,
Oof.
and then we have the most recent name that's really come through, and he's been linked to quite a lot of. It seems to be like his agents definitely seem to be trying to push Manuel Pellegrini to Italy, because he was had negotiations with Roma
Mm,
before they confirmed De Rossi, and now he's right in the line for Milan as well. He's become the biggest name recently. But as we discussed when we were discussing him for Roma, he's going to be 71 this year. So yeah, that's a bit of a strange one. Outsiders are Marcelo Gallardo, Christophe Galtier, Paulo Fonseca, Thiago Motta, who of course is in talks with Juventus, and then Thomas Tuchel, who's leaving Bayern Munich at the end of the season, although he would come with a massive, like Conte would come with a massive wage. So these are the names that have been mentioned on the shortlist. Not a single Italian has been mentioned, including Conte, on the shortlist. So what do you make of these names? Who do you if it was going to be a foreigner from this list, who would you like?
I don't know. I really like Unai Emery, but I don't think that's going to happen. I do think the Lopetegui and Pellegrini thing is not something that I discount because of the style of football they play. Everyone knows, I think Sarri, just for the technical and tactical reasons, is the one I think is best suited. I know that as a character, he doesn't fit into Milan's style at all, neither graphically or behaviorally. In terms of behavior off the pitch, he just won't. He's not that guy. But I think the football would be unbelievable. I still can't discount Antonio Conte. I see. I have a really hard time believing Antonio Conte and Aurelio De Laurentiis are gonna work together. I just don't. I don't buy that at all. I don't buy those rumors at all. So I just. So I think it's. My money is on one of Lopetegui, Conte, Pellegrini. One of those. I don't see Xavi coming. I think that would be insane. I don't see the board giving Zlatan, or if it's true that Zlatan wants Xavi, I just don't see that. Not after what's happened in Barcelona. That would be mental. I just don't see that happening. But one of those, and also of course with Sarri as a dark horse. We're working hard. We're working overtime over here to try to get Sarri to Milan because it's for the good of Milan.
Yeah, I mean, my problem is absolutely that he should absolutely be like Conte should be in the at least in the frame. It should be a possibility for the job. To not even be considered is I think just madness, really. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the next few weeks pan out. Really, it's going to be a big appointment for Milan. But in my point of view is, yeah, I'm like you. I think Emery would be great. Amorim also, because I think he fits the model of Milan in terms of developing players, younger players. Done a great job at Sporting in that sense as well. Lopetegui, I do like. I have to be honest, I do like Lopetegui, but yeah, I can understand that the opposition from fans. And Conceição, I think, is just a bit too defensive for what Milan.
No, I don't see Conceição going because of the style he plays.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make sense in the players they've got. I just don't see him going there.
Yeah, and Xavi's a weird one. Is a difficult. Xavi's a difficult one to assess. I feel like with Xavi, like he could be good, but he could also be a bit of a massive flop. It's hard to know with Xavi. Okay, Destiny Udogie. This is really really bad news for the Italy national team. His season is over and he is out of Euro 2024. He underwent an operation at the end of last week. This news came completely out of nowhere. No one had a clue about this. He did a post on Instagram, on his social media, in a hospital bed, having just undergone an operation for quadriceps injury, which no one seemed to know about either, and no one knew about it. Like even Tottenham didn't even put out a statement. Udogie put out the statement before Tottenham did. None of the journalists seemed to know anything about it. No one had an idea about it. Just completely out of the blue, and it's just it's a crushing blow for Italy because we've lost another big player. I mean, he probably wouldn't have started. Probably Di Marco is going to be the starting player on the left-hand side, but he would have played a lot. He would have had a lot of game time at the Euros. There's a lot of matches. Di Marco doesn't really play much. I mean, doesn't last games. He usually 60 minutes and he's getting tired. So Udogie would have been a big player for Italy at the Euros, and he's had such a fantastic tournament. So huge blow, Nima.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of this now. Like, enough. with these Italian talented players getting injuries, serious injuries, and missing 4, 5, 6, 7, how many months it's going to. I'm tired of this now. Like, enough. Thank God it's not an ACL, is it? But I
No,
mean,
no, it's not a
it's
serious
still.
injury. Apparently, it's going to be 3 months. He'll be back for the next
Yeah, but it's
season.
3 months.
But the
It's
point
3
is,
months.
I don't. Yeah, listen. If he had this injury earlier in the season, I wouldn't care less. But the problem is, he's missing the Euros. That's what
Mm.
counts. Italy are
Yeah,
without him
but
in the
it's
Euros.
look in that position. Italy, I mean, with Di Marco are doing well, but it's a bit annoying because now bloody hell, Biraghi's going to get called up, and it's like he's not good
He
enough.
better not. But he better not get called up.
No, I hope Spinazzola, at least Spinazzola. Like I can't see Biraghi. Like it just drives me mad, and even Parisi. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like it's just
Well, he's not going to be
anyone.
Parisi because he doesn't play. But yeah,
Yeah, I know,
I
but
hope
do you know what I
I
mean?
hope it's Di Marco and Cambiasso, and then if he takes an extra left back,
Spinazzola. I
like,
hope
I'd
Spinazzola.
rather
I
he just take
pray
Di
Spinazzola.
Lorenzo and Bellanova as the rights,
Yes,
and then
Bellanova, please God.
Cambiasso
Yes,
and Di Marco as the lefts, and then if we've
yes,
got space for an extra left, we then take Spinazzola. But
yeah,
yeah, definitely
yeah,
not. But either way, listen, it's a massive blow because Udogie gives us something that we don't really have much in the team. He gives us those physical qualities, the pace, the drive, the ability to cover the ground. We really don't have those players, many of those players in the squad at all. Not playing at our top level. Bellanova has it, but playing for a top team, in a top league, top competition regularly, it's a big blow, and it's really frustrating because we've now lost two really important players for the Euros. Tonali, obviously, he still exists, and Udogie, and that's weakened our two strongest areas of the pitch, which are the centre of midfield and the wing back areas, which is really really frustrating. Of course, we've lost Berardi as well. He would have been a first teamer as well, even though he's not,
yeah.
he's not the strongest player in the world, but he still weakens the team. So, Italy are weakened through these injuries, and that is really really frustrating, and that is really really important in tournaments. Avoiding injuries, but if you want to do well at major tournaments, is crucial. If you get lots of injuries, you've got less chance of doing well in tournaments. It's an obvious thing to
Mm,
say, but sometimes people forget about that.
yeah.
And it's yeah. Just have to pray we
No.
don't get any more. We don't get any more.
Yeah. No. Enough now. Like seriously, enough. And like it's with between suspensions and chaos. Like enough now. Like I want.
Mm.
Like, can all Italian football players just not get injured? Like the best ones, can they just not get injured and stay out of scandals for like, at least just 24 months? Like, can we all get a break from
Just until the end of
the World
June,
Cup?
yeah, or
Yeah,
middle of
no, just
July.
until the end of the World Cup. Like, please stay away from scandals. Like, just enough. I want calm. I'm all. It's too much. I need time to regroup.
Yeah.
Like it's just. So no, look,
Well, that
it's
wanker, what's his name? That paparazzo wanker is he's on the
Corona.
yeah Corona. He's threatening to release more names now. So don't worry.
Yeah, but it's look, but
Listen,
he's not.
I know what's going to happen already. Listen, I know how he works. As soon as the Serie A season, in the week leading up to the Euros, he'll release some more names of Italian players at
And
the
then he'll
Euros.
get sued, and
Guaranteed, guaranteed.
then he'll get sued like he did with every other time. And then while that is being litigated, he'll either settle out of court and apologize.
But he'll
I mean,
release
it's
some
just
names just before the Euros, just to disrupt everything, just so that
yeah.
we might have to some players will have to pull out, and then all this.
No one's going to pull out. If he had anything, he's got nothing.
Wish
If he had anything,
wish
he'd
his
already
dad
be
had
out.
pulled out.
Well, what? What?
So I wish his dad had pulled out.
Oh my God. Oh dear Lord. No, but it's not. I'm not worried about anything that idiot has to say. It's just exhausting, and he's like the stuff that he does is just so gross, and he's been, the man was in prison for all of these things, and for doing exactly this, and I remember the Wanda and Brozovic sued him because he said that they had a relationship, and he had to pay them. He apologized, and like he doesn't care because he knows that they will report it uncritically, everything he says. And he is a pathological liar. We know that he's been found. The courts have found him as being a liar. So I just find it. I don't pay attention to anything he has to say, and I found that entire thing when he was somehow somehow the lead reporter on what happened was nonsense, because he wasn't the one who broke that story at all. He was just the only one dumb enough, crazy and dumb enough to talk about it nonstop, just blaming everyone left, right, and center, talking about people's sexuality, talking about this, that, and the other. And it's just like, why give this guy airtime? We know who this guy is. For 30 years, he's just been a complete douche. And it's just leave it, just ignore him.
Yeah.
Is where I am.
Yeah, agreed. Right. Coppa Italia semi-final second legs this week. Lazio, Juventus. Juventus leading 2-0 from the first leg. The second leg is in Rome. And Atalanta against Fiorentina in Bergamo. Fiorentina leading 1-0 from the first leg. Juventus with that lead and with Lazio not really having that much firepower, you'd probably back Juventus to go through as badly as they're playing right now. But Atalanta Fiorentina, that's a 50-50, isn't it? That could go either way.
I don't think Atalanta will put much effort into that, especially once they're trailing. Like,
really?
Yeah.
No, they'll go for it. That's why they rested their entire team to be.
Yeah, but I still think the focus has to be on the Europa League. I'm sorry, but Marseille are beatable. Like, they really are beatable. They are a good side. I respect Marseille, but they are beatable. They are absolutely.
Oh yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. I think they go for it. Absolutely go for it. They're in a semi-final. They can win a trophy which they've never won.
Yeah, but playing against Juve,
playing the horrific Juventus team that got the worst form in the second half of the season for 30 years, they absolutely can win that final. Bloody hell, Nima.
Juve in Coppa Italia,
I don't care.
in the final.
Yes,
no,
Allegri 7 years ago in finals. Yes, Allegri now worst in 30 years. So no, don't give me that bloody stuff from the past. Bloody hell, Nima, man. Oh man,
Juve are winning the Coppa Italia, and you're gonna have to praise Allegri at the end of the season.
They may well do, but I'm not having this. Oh, Juventus don't lose finals because of something that Allegri did 7 years ago. Oh god. Right. Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. Baggio, I want you to take this away, Nima. This was absolutely beautiful. I was almost brought to tears watching this. It was a tribute by IFK Gothenburg to Sven-Göran Eriksson before their game at the weekend. They brought Sven-Göran Eriksson as a kind of a guest of honor because he was the manager of Gothenburg during the 80s. He won the UEFA Cup in 1982 and did some absolutely miraculous things there at Gothenburg. He's a hero there, as he is in many places, a complete legend of the game. And obviously he's suffering from terminal cancer, and he's doing a kind of I think this is beautiful. He's doing a football farewell tour, which I think is so amazing, because when people are dying, and they don't have long left, usually the tributes come after they've died, and they're not there to see it, and that's beautiful as well. But I think it's absolutely lovely that he's doing this, and teams are doing this for him while he's still alive, and he can be there and be part of it and almost celebrate what he's done in life with the people that love him. And I thought that what Gothenburg did, it really did. It was so touching, Nima. They brought him out on the pitch, didn't they? And the crowd and the way that they cheered him. It was amazing.
So he came to Gothenburg in 1979 from Värmland, and he had a pretty difficult start, and people were very critical of him. I remember, I've read since when he first came, but then he kind of turned it around, and it all, came in it was a climax in 1982 when they won the UEFA Cup, the Swedish Championship and the Swedish Cup. And he went off to Europe. And before the game started, they were, because what he started with that UEFA Cup, that was the signal of what became the next 15 years, 15, 16, almost 2 decades of dominance by IFK Gothenburg, not just in Swedish football, but also a lot of success in European football. Another UEFA Cup win in 87, knocking out Inter on the way. Champions League games, which I attended as a kid, beating Milan with Maldini, Vea, Baggio at Ullevi, where Alexandersson spun Maldini up like I've rarely seen Maldini be spun. you also saw, that Barcelona side with Romario, Hadji, Stoichkov beating Manchester United at Ullevi with Kanchelskis, Ince, and all these guys. Galatasaray home and away, Bayern Munich, those years. Like this team of semi-professionals, essentially. He laid the groundwork for that, for what became a unique period of dominance by a Swedish football club at international level that we've never seen since or before. And so he is a hero in Gothenburg amongst IFK fans. And when he came out, before he came out on the pitch, there was a video they put together of him through the years at IFK, and of course an interview where I think it's from around 81, 82, that season. It's from a documentary where he speaks about the mentality and how important it is to have the right mentality. And he says, we don't know where it ends, but we know where it begins. And those are the words of the banner that IFK Gothenburg's support Ultras, Änglarna, their supporter club, in that choreography or that tifo. Those are the words that they had at the bottom. And they had this image of him when the iconic photo of him coming to Gothenburg, in the middle, surrounded by blue flags. It's very, very beautiful. It was very beautiful to see, because given that, Italians are the best at paying tribute to their heroes, they're known for that, but it was nice to see that Svennis got that love and recognition, like you said, during his lifetime, also in Sweden and Gothenburg. That was very beautiful to see.
It was amazing. There's a video doing the rounds actually on social media. I tweeted it out on Sunday. If you go to my feed, you'll see it. It's about 4 minutes long. It was absolutely beautiful. Like, it almost brings tears to your eyes. It was that beautiful. Okay, let's.
I can't like the next. I have another Baggio as well, or I can't decide if this is a Baggio or a Premface. I just know it's absolutely fantastic. Nottingham Forest on the weekend tweeted out the single greatest thing I have ever heard, seen, read from a statement from a football club at this level. Here's the tweet: 3 extremely poor decisions, 3 penalties not given, which we simply cannot accept. We warned the PGMOL that the VAR is a Luton fan before the game, but they didn't change him. The VAR is a Luton fan is the greatest thing I have ever read in my life. I don't know if that's a Baggio or a Premface. I can't decide. I just know it's brilliant.
It's hilarious, whatever it is. It's brilliant.
The VAR is a Luton fan. I love that. Oh, thank you to Nick Costa for sending that.
That would have come straight from the owner, by the way.
The VAR is a Luton.
That would have come straight from the Greek owner. 100%.
Yeah, it does have that middle. That does have a Mediterranean vibe to it, doesn't it?
100%.
It's got that Zamparini madness flavour to it.
I think they'll be fine, not in Forest, the way Luton are playing at the moment. Premface of the week. We've got quite a few, as we always have when there's.
But Simon Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, Simon Jordan has got to be that. Madrid are the Gareth Southgate of domestic football. I don't even like.
I love the tweet that was done by our friend Adrian Del Monte, where he listed all the achievements of Real Madrid during their history. It was like 35 La Liga titles. How many Champions Leagues is it now? 14 Champions Leagues and all this. And then he showed the list of honours from Gareth Southgate, and it was like one Manager of the Month in 2008, one Toulon tournament, one BBC Sports Personality of the Year, and then the best one was 2021, almost knighted.
Yeah, that was hilarious by Adrian. I love that tweet, that thread. He did a tweet thread as well. about the how badly they've been coping recently this season, about how arrogant they were.
Mhm.
Before and after, and it was hilarious.
Yeah,
It was
there's
absolutely
nothing that
hilarious.
winds Adrian up more than
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. He's like you.
yeah.
It's
I
hilarious.
wind him up all the time.
Well, of course
I
you do.
send him clips of like these kind of things. Michael Richards getting all 4 predictions right before like, we're talking of jinxes. I mean, that is
He's funny, but he's funny, Micah Richards. I got to be honest. He makes me laugh. He just seems like such a nice guy and just easy guy, and he just seems funny to me. I
yeah.
don't know.
Well, he
He's
is,
like,
but it's just like they use him as just like the
I think
they just use,
I think
they use
he's
him as a
probably going to
clown.
address
They use him as
the.
a clown on CBS. Like
Yeah,
people that
they do,
laugh at,
but
and he's much better than that. Do you know what I
yeah, he
mean?
is.
He's much better
But
than
I
that.
do think that he will probably make fun of that fact himself, that he got everything wrong.
No,
Like
no.
he's funny.
We've got some other ones. So we had I can't remember which game this was now, but Ali McCoy saying Ernst Happel, was he Dutch or Belgian? I can't remember which game it was, but he of course
Ah,
he's neither. Then we had on Irish TV our good friend Jerry Armstrong, who's becoming a regular now on this
yeah.
segment. So Dave McIntyre, I think was the commentator of the Man City game versus Real Madrid. So as Bernardo Silva was stepping up, Dave McIntyre said, "This is a man who has never taken a penalty in his professional career." And then obviously it was saved by Andrew Lunin of Real Madrid. And then Jerry Armstrong, the co-pundit, said, "He's done his homework." I love that. I love that. And then finally, I love this as well. So during the FA Cup semi-final between Manchester City and Chelsea, Jermaine Genius, former Tottenham midfielder, was the commentator, the pundit for this game. And when Kevin De Bruyne came off, he goes, "Oh, I've never seen Kevin De Bruyne make as many tackles as he has done today." And then we saw the stats, and it was Kevin De Bruyne had made 1 tackle all game, which I absolutely love.
Oh
So
dear.
yeah, some fantastic ones this week.
Yeah,
Of course,
it's
Carragher as well. Let's not forget Jamie Carragher as well for saying
yeah.
that, as I mentioned earlier, that the best team doesn't win in the Champions League.
Carragher, as I like to call him, the spitting llama of Liverpool.
Spitting
Yeah,
nonsense as always. Serie A
yeah.
Ass of the week, Nima. You take this one away.
So there's quite a few here. One is, I mean, after Fiorentina manager Vincenzo Italiano, it looked like he kissed Vanessa Leonardi, who's Compagnoni's wife, after Fiorentina scored in the Conference League. And it was, he denied it, she denied it. But Maurizio Compagnoni said on social media, I think it's like, do you think he's going to do that in front of 1,000 cameras and his and his own wife? And it's just like the whole thing is so cringe, the way that
So
that's
he
been
would do it when the
handled.
cameras are not there, basically. He's saying.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Like it's just you're not thinking clearly. And then of course there's another one as well, which
Can I just say though, on that Compagnoni Leonardi thing, like it's one of those where it does look really suspicious because like the way that he leans in, then the way that the camera goes, then what's really really funny is that as he stands up and gets up, because he's kind of like crouching over when he's allegedly talking to her in her ear, he's like wipes his mouth away as he's walking away, which is like it makes it look even more like he's just kissed her. I do believe that he didn't kiss her though, but it was quite funny though.
yeah, it is. And then we have another one, and this is about someone who was sent to prison for 5 years and 8 months for trafficking drugs. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because he was the former procuratore capo del AIA. AIA is the Italian Referees Association, and he was the head. I don't know what procuratore, like what do you call it, like head agent or head
Like the
head
chief,
head.
like
Sorry.
the chief.
Yeah, well, he was one of the directors. I don't know exactly his role. I've not been able to discern exactly how to pronounce that in English. But he was one of the head senior people at the Italian Referees Association, and he was sentenced for drug trafficking 5 years and 8 months. Like,
Mad. I remember when this broke out a couple of years ago, because there was another guy that was actually the chief as well that resigned at the time. I can't remember his name, but I remember I was talking about this on the pod before a
Yeah, I
couple of years
remember.
ago. It's another guy, not actually this guy, that also was part of it as well, and he
Yeah.
resigned as well. So it's when people try and claim that there isn't anything corrupt with referees, that kind of stuff doesn't go on. And also the Luton fan VAR, it just this kind of stuff just makes you think. Do you know what it reminds me of though? This story reminded me of. It reminded me of Bidon Moreno, every Italian person's favorite referee, right? Who of course was the infamous Ecuadorian referee that cheated Italy out of the 2002 World Cup against South Korea. Who was about, I don't know if it was a year, 2 years after that game, was arrested at JFK Airport in the United States for smuggling heroin
As you do.
was it heroin or was it cocaine?
I can't remember.
It was one
I
of the
can't
two
remember.
anyway.
I
But it was
remember it was one of
smuggling,
the two.
like it was smuggling Class A drugs into the United States. It just reminded me of that, And then it's just kind of like, well, told you so. Everybody that was doubting there was anything corrupt about that game, well, here
I
he
love the
is.
guilt by association we're doing here. But listen, the final. I have a Serie A that is just this is just so quintessentially the reason why I love the lower tier of Italian football. So in Serie C, in Group C of Serie C, the situation is this: that with one match day left, so Catania won the Serie C Coppa Italia. And therefore, when you win that, you have a right to play in the playoffs to get promoted to Serie B. However, Catania are in 15th spot. They're on 42 points, one game left to play. 1 point ahead of Turia, who are in the relegation or play out zone. The only problem is that finishing because it's a 20 team league where 20th team gets relegated, but 16, 17, 18 and 19 do a play out. And so if you finish 16th, it doesn't mean that you automatically have to do a play out. You have to have less than 8 points in order to so basically it says that in order to not make the playouts, you also have to have less than 8 points ahead of the team that is second to last. So basically, the second to last is Monterossi. They're on 10 points below Catania. Now, what that means is that on paper, Catania could either end up playing in a play out to go to Serie D, or or play a playoff to go to the Serie B. But the problem is, the law, the rules state this, that because they have, at least they have legislation or rules in place. What happens, and this happens, is that Catania will, if they finish 16th in the 16th spot, despite having won the Coppa Italia, they'll play in the playout. So basically, what can happen is that we can also have a situation where several teams end on the same point tally, and then they do an internal thing where Catania is last. Now, does that sound chaotic and confusing?
I'm lost.
Yes.
I'm completely
Yes.
lost.
This is and the reason this is Serie A is this kind of stuff, this entire thing, this structure can only exist in Italian football. This kind of complicated drama and different scenarios, and it's just it is quintessentially the most Italian football thing ever. Like, it's insane. They can either end up playing for the playoff to the Serie B, or they can end up going to Serie D. Like, there's no in between here. It's heaven or hell, shit or champagne, and it's just beautiful. It's just, I love this about Italian football, the sheer complex madness it's not there's a methodology to the madness as well, because somebody actually thought this out and thought this was a good idea. Let's spice it up for shits and giggles. Because I mean, why not just have the usual
No
stuff?
wonder Italian football is the state it's in. I mean, they're trying to conquer. They're trying to. This is the final Serie A of the week. They're trying to conquer America, or they believe they already have conquered America, and then they hold the biggest game of the season, the Milan derby, on 2:45 in the afternoon in the United States. I mean, on a Monday, Monday 2:45. And that's Eastern time as well. So what is it on the other coast? I mean, it's absolutely insane, man. It's insane.
No, it is. It's
Clueless.
hilarious, but yeah, Catania. So obviously, I have very strong Etnei sympathies. So Forza Etnei. Let's hope they finish out of the play out zone, and that because they won the Serie C Coppa Italia, they play for the playoffs to Serie B, because it would be awesome.
Good
I
luck
want
planning
Catania Palermo.
for the new season right now, guys.
What?
I said good luck to them trying to plan their new season.
Oh, it's not going to happen. That's not happening. Like, it's just not happening. It's hilarious, but yeah, it's basically and it's like looking at the table doesn't mean anything, and it's just madness. And also, congratulations to Spal, our good friend Joe Tacopina and Spal, for securing. They've had a very, very difficult season, and they secured Serie C football for next season, because they were for large parts of this season they were in the relegation battle, but they finished mid-table and a couple of points away from the playoff spot. But yeah, hope good luck to Joe and Spal, and hopefully they will use this summer to rebuild and get themselves back into Serie B first before they get back to the Serie A.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. Let's leave it at that. We'll be back for
Tonight.
tonight, depending on when you're listening to this. Nima will be doing a post-match reaction on the Milan derby and potentially into Scudetto victory, and then we'll be back on for the Q&A on Tuesday, and then a show later on in the week as usual.
Yeah.
Okay. Until next time. Ciao, ciao.